Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 65. I'm your host, Jeff Humphreys. Today's guest, I just told him off camera. The minute he said yes to this, I've been telling people he's coming on the show. So I've been super excited. The reason we've connected is because of a good friend of ours, Deo. He did the intro, so I got a shout out to Deo. He'll appreciate that. But please go ahead, name and who you are.
My name is Bernard Callebaut, and I'm a chocolatier here in Calgary.
And again, off camera, how many years has it been?
This year it's 40.
which is amazing. I'm born and raised here. I'm 46, and your name's been synonymous with the city for a long time. So this is a really cool experience for me.
Yeah, thank you. And I started actually when the city was actually in very big trouble, because it was the national energy policy that they launched, and then ultimately the people that were unemployed was incredible here in Calgary. But ultimately, there's no good time to start. It's like, whatever. I got off the airplane and I better get going and make chocolate, right?
And here we are 40 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
So the gist of the show is I like the guests to kind of tell their story, where they came from, and we kind of weave a path into where they are today. So I'd love for you to go back to, where you grew up, how you grew up, and then we'll kind of get to why you decided to come to Calgary, and we'll keep going down the path.
Yeah,
so.
No, sure. I'm born in a small town about 30 kilometers north of Brussels in the Flanders, a small town, 2,500 people, something like Bragg Creek. And my family has been living there for a long time, because my great-great-grandfather started a brewery there in 1850.
No way.
Yes, and so we had the brewery for 125 years in the family, and then sold that in 1974. The chocolate company was the second generation that did that, was in 1911. And that was the time that chocolate became extremely popular, became more affordable, and my great-great-grandfather, he saw that craze coming up, and he said to his sons, you go and learn the trade in Paris. And they went to Meunier, still a company that exists today, and they learned the trade of chocolate making, and we got into the chocolate business in 1911. I know that it has been a rocky road, that whole period, but ultimately the business became much bigger than the brewery. And then my dad, who was actually a brewery engineer here in Belgium, it's a university degree, and he was supposed to run the brewery, but ultimately his uncle passed away that ran the chocolate company, and so he got bombarded in the chocolate business, and ultimately it became much bigger than the brewery, and he ran the company till he passed away in 1972. Then my mother continued, and then she sold it to a Swiss outfit, and that's when I decided to start a chocolate company somewhere else. I'm actually an engineer. That's my background.
Okay.
I'm an electromechanical engineer.
Yeah.
And then I had to pick and choose where I was going to go.
Yep. Did you, so growing up, your dad's running, when you're a youngster, is he running the brewery and the chocolate shop?
No, that was his brother. Ultimately, then what happened, he was supposed to run the brewery, but he got bombarded in the chocolate business, and then his brother run the brewery.
Okay.
But ultimately, the two businesses were side by side. You have to think, in that time, it was not uncommon that, your house is literally smack against the business. And literally, our house was connected to the chocolate company. I could jump from my bedroom on the roof of the garage and climb into the chocolate company. And so that's like old Europe. That's how it is. So
yeah.
Our house was against it. So my dad's commuting was 30 seconds, open a door, do 5 steps, and he was where he had to go. It's inconceivable today, right?
Oh, it's, yeah.
Yes, but in any case, that's the way it was. Life was like that. He got up early, he went to the office early, and then at 9 o'clock, he would come back home, have breakfast with his wife, then back to work. I mean, you could do all that stuff, and then he would come for lunch at home. A lot of people that worked in the factory, at lunch, they would go home. Mm-hmm. There was a big horn, and it was 12 o'clock. The horn went, and you could hear it from very far away. And then people jumped on their bicycle, and they would go home, eat, and then come back for 1 o'clock and get back to work. I mean, these things are not conceivable anymore. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist. But that's how the way it was. And then Also, if you lived further away from a circle of 4 kilometers or something like that, people could eat at the factory, and then the office people they had also a room, and we would even serve beer at lunch. Can do that.
Things have
so
changed.
We served beer for the staff. So in any case, that's things that hold history today. The chocolate company still exists. The people that bought it, the Swiss company, it's now a public company, and ultimately our old family factory is today the biggest chocolate factory in the world.
No way.
Yeah, no, much bigger than he invested a lot of money. That was, this is already 40 years ago. But can you imagine that today in that plant, they produce 1,000 tons a day?
No way.
7 days a week. And 1,000 tons, that is like 20 trucks that leave every day the chocolate factory, Saturday and Sunday.
Crazy.
I'm born actually... The factory was basically our playground. I'm born literally across the street, 20 meters. I was 20 meters short to be born in a chocolate factory. And so it was our playground. So, it was there every day. It was always, it was part of our daily life.
Mm-hmm. So you would, what did it look like? What did your youth look like? Go to school?
Go to school on a bicycle. When we were younger, we had cousins living in the area, and we had the little Volkswagen bus, these that the hippies. Yeah, one person would drive us, drop all the kids off in all the schools, and then pick us up again and drop them all off at their house, because they was all in the same village. And then when we were older, we would go by bicycle to school. It was about 5-6 kilometers, and that was it. So a lot of your life was simply in your neighborhood, in the whole area.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people lived basically in their village and didn't go much beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And how, as your family's working in the chocolate shop and the brewery, and are you at one point? Do you actually start working there, or are you just
we did during holidays. We would do that when we were younger, in the brewery or in a chocolate factory, help out unloading trucks, simple things, but that we love to do. That sweat bullets, help to unload the truck. But at that time, everything was done by hand. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was all pure hand labor. Mm-hmm. So we love to do that. So it was literally in our backyard. And when there was from the brewery old crates, beer crates, they were wood at that time, were not plastic. We would burn them and stuff like that. Just build castles with them. It was literally our playground.
So what is there? Is the factory like a straight up factory, or is there like a retail piece on the front?
No, it's a plain factory.
Okay.
And it's a 6 stories high and things like that. And it's all gone now. No, it's all flat. We would go on the roof. We would throw little water balloons down to the people that drove by. So it was fun. It was a different world. I remember, when it snowed, it didn't snow that much, but when it snowed, we would make snowballs and throw it to the cars that drove by, etc. People stop and chase us.
Did you, growing up in that kind of family atmosphere, did you always know that chocolate was going to be a part of your life?
I have to say my dad never pushed any of the children to work in a business.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have one brother, one sister.
Okay.
He said, do what you really want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I always liked mechanics and things like that. So I went for engineering, and then later on, I realized that it is actually a beautiful profession, making chocolate. So I went for an apprenticeship afterwards. Okay. In Antwerp, and I've always stayed in contact with the person, like the son of the man that taught me all the tricks of the trade. he has worked for me, and he was here last weekend. So I kept in touch.
Cool.
I always do that with colleagues. I like to exchange ideas. I think that's good for everybody to do that. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell my life in Belgium. I did my military service too, because in Belgium, at that time, it's mandatory. And when you were single, you had to go to Germany. So I stayed about a year in Germany. And then basically after that, I applied to the Canadian embassy to come here. And that took about 7 months to get my permit. And then basically that was it. Then bought some equipment, put it in a container, and off we go.
And why did you want to come to Canada?
I looked to different places in the US. I looked to southern Germany, but ultimately I traveled here a couple of times. I went to the east side, to the west side, 2-3 times, and then ultimately, I've always had a weakness for the mountains, and I believed that Alberta had a lot of future with natural resources, etc. And so based on that, I didn't do a lot of market studies on that, but I said, you know what? I brought chocolates always in my suitcase, and had people try it. Looked what was on the market, and there was not too much on the market. It was more commercial products, more candy type of products. And people liked what I gave them, and basically that was the only market study. And I said, well, you know what? This might be the place to go, and that's what I did.
To go from being an engineer into the chocolate business, how does that happen? Are you like the mechanics, you want to try the engineering side, and then just the chocolatier pulled you
it's a totally different business, but ultimately later on, once you grow, the engineering side helps, because ultimately you're always dealing with machines. Whatever you do, it's it becomes a manufacturing facility, really.
Yep.
And then ultimately the engineering kicks in more and more. The machines become more and more sophisticated. You organize, we work with shifts, like in my old company. We had up to 3 shifts, and even in the weekends, etc. And there's a lot of organizational work involved, etc. So the engineering always, you always need engineers. Don't get rid of the engineers. If you make cookies, biscuits, chocolate, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So when you decided to come over, you said you brought 3 pieces of equipment?
Yeah, that very small equipment. I didn't have a lot about chocolate molds. I bought little machines that you can use to pour the chocolate. I had actually rented that space that I rented on 17th Avenue. It was 3,000 square feet, and basically when I put all the equipment in, it was basically empty. But then ultimately I had grand ideas. I said, one day I will fill it up, and ultimately I did that, filled it up quite quickly. That there was no space anymore, and then ultimately that's when I built the factory on First Street Southeast. That was in 1996. Bought the land in 1993, and then that was from the Firemen's Union, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Bought a piece of land, and then hired someone to do the design, and then we opened there in 96.
Crazy.
With Al Doer.
Oh yeah.
Mayor Al Doer. I see him still once in a while at the Costco. I don't need to him and his wife, and yeah, that was the story.
It got going.
Yeah.
So back to the one on 17th. You get here. What's actually happening when you land here? Are you nervous? Are you just understand that this is what you've chosen to do?
Yeah, sure. I knew what I was going to do. How that was a totally different story. And like we said before we started, it's like jumping off a building and then see how are we gonna fly? And ultimately, that's what I did. Yes, I knew about making chocolates, but ultimately the whole business aspect, etc. I had no idea. I wanted to borrow some money from the bank, so through a connection, someone introduced me to someone from the Northland Bank, and so that meant that I met that gentleman from the Northland Bank. But the minimum you had to borrow was $3 million.
No way.
Yeah. Yes. And
what year was this? Sorry.
1983.
Okay.
Yeah.
$3 million.
Yeah, that was the minimum. And I said, well, no, that's not in my league. And then he said he was going to introduce me to another bank. So I got introduced to a bank. But then ultimately, when you start a new business and you have zero track record and you have no assets, the bank said, great, we will give you a line of credit of $30,000 if you put $30,000 in a term deposit. That's how it was.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's how I started. My mother helped me too financially, and then got going. And also one thing I did before I started, we know very well the founder of Godiva Chocolates, that is like very well known. It's a global company. But he is from Belgium, and he was a client of my father. And so I went to go and see him before and to say for some advice. And he said to me, like, one thing you have to do is when you start and you're unknown, make sure that your price is lower than the established competition. And ultimately, Godiva had a store in Montreal Village that's on 8th Street and 16th Avenue. So I sold cheaper than they did. And ultimately, and gave a lot of samples. That's a policy that I still use. If you make a product of very high quality, I think the best marketing tool is giving samples. Because ultimately, these large companies, Godiva, etc., they can hire a photographer from New York that you pay $20,000 a day. I cannot do that. They can make fabulous ads in magazines, etc. I cannot do that. But I can beat them by giving the people a piece of chocolate. And I've always done that policy, and I still do that today, give people a piece of chocolate. And ultimately, they closed down the store at Godiva, and we had to line up. Because, so my plan was to open before Christmas. Of course, that didn't happen. And then I tried for Valentine, and didn't happen. And so we opened just before Easter, 1983.
How quick did you open from the minute you landed here to when you opened the doors?
I immigrated in Canada in November 82. So that's and so opening in March 83 was actually, when I think about it, that's not a lot of time.
That's like really fast, isn't it?
Yes. And then ultimately, I was kind of lucky. There was a Belgian guy that had a restaurant in Kensington. And so obviously you go and say hi, because I knew nobody here. And he said, my wife rented half the store from a lady that has a kitchen business, and she's closing it down. So I went to go, and I talked to that lady, and so I rented that other portion, and that's how I started.
And even for her to be on 17th Ave, which is a great location.
Yes.
You know, like you being new to the city, to actually land on 17th Ave as your first shop.
Yeah, there was a little bit of luck, because the economy, when the economy goes very bad, and ultimately there are opportunities. You can find places for lease, because ultimately she was closing down, and so I had to sublet because she had to lease herself.
Yeah.
And so that all, a little bit by luck, these things happen. And so in any case, there I was, the opening up, Easter went quite well. And then of course it was very dry, very quiet during the summer period, because that's not a good time. But then the year after, really the things took off. Like at Valentine's, I remember in 1984, people were lining up and the store was constantly empty, and it was very cold. People were lining up and waiting in the cold to buy chocolate. So it really took off. We got extremely busy, and then people started knocking on my door. They wanted to open like franchises, dealerships. They wanted to open a store, and ultimately that's how the business grew. And
was it all? I find it fast. So I'm a marketing person by trade.
Okay, I'm gonna hire you.
It sounds like you've done just fine. But to build something like old school, word of mouth, new to the country, a small shop, do you just trust that the product is unbelievable and your customer service is good and people will find you? Or how did it start growing?
Well, ultimately, because it was a little bit of a novelty at that time to have like European or Belgian style fancy chocolate, etc. was not. So I was the first one in town that really did that.
Right.
And of course I got a lot of attention, media attention, etc. So that helped a lot. But I did a lot of fundraisers. I still do that today, special events, etc., where I give samples, etc.
Right.
And that's really how I built the business.
So how long were you in that location?
In that location, well, from 83 till 1996, when we opened on MacLeod.
You were there that long?
Yeah. But then ultimately we stayed. I learned my lesson on that. So we gave up that space because ultimately, as a retail location, 3,000 square feet was way too big. So we gave that space, and we moved the store 50 meters down the road. 50 meters, that's nothing, okay? Ultimately, I learned my lesson that people, they think you close down and you're gone. And even that we in every bag we put a sheet of paper to say like you're moving 4 doors down the road, etc. People they don't pay attention to that, and so it taught me that you have to do better marketing, promotion, etc., etc. And our sales in that retail location dipped from a big number to half that number.
No way, when you moved.
Yes. And then we said we abandoned that location, and then we went to the corner on 8th Street and 17th, the old Scotiabank, 17th Avenue and 8th Street. And then ultimately, because we had a visual location, that numbers went up again. So, locations can be very tricky. When you have been there for many, many years, and then suddenly you move it like 4 doors down the road, it can have a tremendous effect.
People are just creatures of habit. They just, they know where they're going, and that's it.
Right. And myself, the same thing. You drive to do the same route all the time, and then you talk to someone, and they say like, "Oh, I have a business on that street. Oh, I drive that road all the time," but you don't see it. It's kind of amazing, but ultimately it tells you something that, now you understand why McDonald's still does advertise. Everybody knows McDonald's, but still you have to remind people, and you have to tell them there's a new location, I'm there, etc. So it's always, you keep on learning. I always say you learn till you get in your graveyard.
That's it. When you're with that original location, when it's growing, it's like I'm sure. Did you know it's going to get that big? And how are you handling this big kind of change?
Well, ultimately, there you have to get organizational skills in, that once you get very busy, you have to change your production. You have to buy more equipment. At one point, about a piece of equipment, we flew it in. What was I remember it was $13,000. That is like 40 years ago to fly it in.
Huge money.
Yes, at that time, a huge money. Definitely, when you start a business, you're always short of money, and but ultimately, you make it work. I'm a believer that when you are faced with a challenge like that, you find a solution. You absolutely make it work, and you come up and with ideas, and you do what you have to do. If you have to work 20 hours a day, you make it work.
Scotiabank location?
Yeah.
What year was that ish?
Oh, that's that's probably end of the 90s, early 2000. I don't remember exactly the dates. Okay, and
then where'd you go?
When I lost the company, then ultimately that location stayed there, but only just recently they closed that one down.
Okay.
Yeah. And
then where is the path start going after that?
Well, after that, so at one point we had 30 stores.
30,
yes.
Across?
30 across from London, Ontario to Victoria.
30 stores.
Yeah, and then there was 3 in the US too.
Hold on.
And three in the US. There was one in Chicago, one in Portland, and at one point we had one in Scottsdale too.
How do you open up a 3,000 square foot shop on 17th Ave and then take it to 30 locations across Canada?
Well, from that 3,000 square feet, we serviced up to 20 stores from there.
Oh.
Yeah, that was kind of incredible.
Was that 24/7, that place?
Yeah. We worked like basically two shifts in that location, 2 shifts, but ultimately we couldn't handle it anymore, and that's when we decided to move to a bigger location, and then ultimately. That whole building, we used 40,000 square feet there.
Is that the?
It still exists on 13th Avenue and First Street Southeast.
Yeah, okay. Like the one on the cloud going.
Yes, they have like Gothic style windows. Yeah. So
that was 40,000 square feet.
The whole building is more, but then a portion of the strip mall I rented that out. But the whole basement was 15,000 square feet. That's where the production was.
And that was servicing 20 locations across Canada?
No, 30. 30, yes. Everybody. I did from 17th Avenue, I serviced up to 20 locations. But it was a nightmare because ultimately that was very small. And that was like, even now today, I don't know how I did it. But you make it work, right?
How do you find people to help you? Is there like talented Calgarians that could help you? Or is it like...
over the years, I've hired some... there was people from SAIT that I've hired, and I still do that today. But I've also hired people that had no chocolate experience. But as long... I think that if people have a desire that has to be there, like an interest in it, and they have a positive attitude... You know what can make it work? Like today, my main chocolate maker is a lady. She has been 10 years with me.
No way.
She had zero chocolate experience, and she is an absolute fantastic worker. You know, you have to find the people, and they have to like it too, because otherwise you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when you're very busy, it can be lots of hours of work. Like
what does it actually look like? You know, back in those crazy days, what does your week actually look like?
Well, it can easily be a 7-day week, and and myself put 12, 13-hour days in it. That's quite common.
Yep.
But ultimately, if you're passionate of what you're doing, you know what? It's not a big deal. Like, ask someone that loves to play golf. Like, no, you have to play golf your whole life. They're gonna say, "Oh, fantastic!" And ultimately, I'm in that fortunate position that I found at one point in my life what really got me out of bed. And if you find your true passion, then it's not really working anymore. It's something that you want to do. And I heard a gentleman, a British guy, talk to the Teachers Association here in Calgary. That's about 10 years ago. Name is Mr. Ken Robinson, Sir Ken Robinson. And he speaks about that. The whole evening he was talking about it. He helps people to find their true passion. Because if you find your passion, then ultimately you don't work in your life. And I believe that. I don't have a problem to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because I'm happy, I can create new things, and our business is a very creative business, and I have a great team of people with me, and ultimately that's nice. If you have where you work in an environment that everybody enjoys what they are doing, and the great team spirit. If we have to work overtime or we have to work on a Saturday or on a Sunday, everybody jumps in. But ultimately, you set the example. I still believe that's old school. I know it's old school, leading by example, but I think it still works, in my opinion. If I say you have to work Saturday, Sunday, 2 years ago, we worked basically 32 days in a row.
No way.
And everybody showed up for work. But I was there too. I cannot sit in Hawaii and do a phone call. Hey guys, work Saturday and Sunday. I don't believe in that. Definitely in a small enterprise, that's not how it works. And it's great to see a company grow like that. Then it's not hard to do that.
What do you when it grew that big? Were you prepared or understood how to do it, or was opportunities coming to you and you were just making decisions? Did you always know that it was going to go that big?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is, but ultimately, once people started coming and knocking on our door, we realized that there was definitely potential in the whole business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're prepared to change the whole production and be ready to handle that volume.
Which is kind of investing in the back end so that you can actually produce?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to buy equipment. So I always, on a regular basis, I went to the specific trade shows for our industry, what is mostly in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And you buy the appropriate piece of equipment, the packaging, etc., and all that evolves in that way. But you have to be ahead of the game and make sure that you're well prepared. Our business is a business that you have to be very well prepared. So I always say to the staff that even the people that work today with me or the new people that I hire, like Christmas, that's of course our biggest season. It's like a tsunami. The only difference is we know that it's coming. And if you're well prepared, you surf the wave. If you're not prepared, the wave gobbles you up.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately the wave becomes bigger and bigger. The closer you get to the date, like it starts the 1st of October, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you get behind, you can never catch up.
Mm.
And then it becomes a nightmare. It becomes a nightmare, and I've gone through it.
You learn the hard way?
Yeah, sure, you do. You realize that, you learn by your mistakes. You're not properly prepared,
mm-hmm.
and you never catch up, and then it's hard. And, like I mentioned at St. Valentine, we had, in 1984, we had to close the door when people were standing outside lining up at minus 20 degrees Celsius. I worked the whole night. I went to bed at 9 o'clock in the morning, and at 10 o'clock they called that I had to come back. Things like that. Of course, at that time you see like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? And
mm-hmm.
But when you think about it now, it's fantastic. It's it's amazing to have that problem. It's a very positive problem.
Yeah.
If you can keep up, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you cannot keep on doing it forever, because ultimately the customers are going to say, like, what, they're going to never figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But you do that. You prepare. Like this year for Christmas, we were extremely well prepared.
Do you the passion you have?
Yes.
Is it you've hired people from SAIT, you've hired a few people here and there. Is it a lost art? Is there people around that have the same passion as you, that have the same drive and the same?
Yes, there is. Today I have people in my shop that definitely, they love what they are doing. Do they have really the top passion? Like I don't know that, but ultimately they are fantastic people to work with. Mm-hmm. That for sure, and they really love what they are doing.
Yeah.
And there is. I hear often people complaining like the young people don't want to work. That is not true. Like
mm-hmm.
the young people, give them an opportunity. They will do things. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I believe in that.
Mm.
And I hire people like from SAIT, but I hire a lot of people that have no knowledge. As long as they show a positive attitude and are willing to learn, I'm open.
So after that Scotiabank place,
yes,
you can go into it if you want. You don't have to. Where's the pivot? What happens after that when you kind of decide, you got to kind of pivot and go a different direction? What does that actually look like?
Well, ultimately, you feel that the business is growing, and there's more and more demand for the product, and you don't have the space. Retail is kind of an easy one. Like the Scotiabank was still a retail. There was still a retail location, but the one on 17th Avenue where we were producing.
Yep.
That's the one that was the big step, because in a business, you invest in it and you can produce out of that location for a certain volume, and then you hit a brick wall, and then you have to do a next step up, and then you have to invest much more money. Mm-hmm. And ultimately we had to do that. So bought that piece of land. That was a big investment, but ultimately we had a good track record with the bank, and the
yep.
bank was willing to support us, and then building that building too. That was like a 50,000 square foot building.
It's a monster.
Yeah, it looks much. It's actually much bigger than it looks like because the basement is 15,000 square feet, and that was quite an adventure. Like the whole investment at that time, the building itself was around $3.5 million. What was at that time for me a lot of money.
Huge.
Right? That was a huge investment, but that's part of the game as an entrepreneur. You always have these big steps that come, and ultimately we had to do that step because we needed to bring in bigger equipment. We need more storage because in our industry you need a lot of storage. Packaging takes a lot of volume, etc. And we needed that because now, in the old location on 17th Avenue, I was already renting small spaces left and right to store packaging. And then, of course, it becomes very inefficient because you have to go with a truck and pick up this, pick up that. Yep. And then ultimately, that was the right decision to go that way. And ultimately, that location, that retail location, was an absolute fabulous success, even that it's an odd place for a retail location.
Yep.
But the traffic came by, and we had parking. And it was the home traffic and a parking lot of 30 spaces. That was really, for us, very important. And so we did extremely well out of that retail location.
Mm-hmm. So now when does the brand change? When does it go from... When does the new brand start showing up?
Okay, that's a very long story. Well, a very long story because like at that time, so we were in that location then for quite a while.
Like how long were you in that big one?
So 96, and I lost my business like in 2010, and ultimately I had another idea, and that was to. Because for me that was the next step to grow.
Like that entrepreneurial, the next big step?
Yes, that was the next big step. And because we use a lot of dairy products, I came up with the idea to do a farm that makes chocolates. So we would have like a farm with cows that produce the dairy and then make the chocolates. So actually I bought a piece of land on Highway 1 beside the Petro-Canada station on...
No way?
Yes, the big station.
Like
so that's a big...
corner land?
That was a big... no, not the next one.
Okay.
The one just west of the Petro-Canada station. And there was 196 acres. And so the plan was to sell the portion that's on the highway, the 30 acres, sell it off because that's the more value. But ultimately for us was not important as long as we had access from the highway to the other 160 acres.
Yeah.
And so we did the basic plan, etc. But then the recession hit and then everything went sideways, right? Everything went sideways and ultimately I should have see that come earlier, should have sold the land. I took the wrong steps. I always say, I said that on Dragons then, they asked me the question, what went wrong? And ultimately I said you can blame it on a million things, recession, banks, etc. But ultimately you're the captain of the ship. And the captain of the ship makes a decision when there is a storm that is coming. They can take decisions like we have to go east or west and avoid all the problems and prepare. Yep. And ultimately I did probably not do a good job on that, and lost the company. So when the company went into receivership, my name Bernard Callebaut was a registered trade name, and I personally owned that name, but I got legal advice to put that in the name of the company, the ownership in the name of the company, and that was a fundamental mistake. Because what happened when I lost the company and the assets of the company got sold, that was considered an asset, and that went with the company. So today, someone else is running around with the name Bernard Callebaut, but they have the legal ownership because they bought it through the receivership.
Yep.
But it's kind of bizarre and very confusing for the public that you have a company with the name Bernard Callebaut, but actually he's not there. But that's what can happen in receiverships.
Yep.
And so I had to deal with that, and it's a fact of life. So I could not use my name as a trade name. Obviously, I couldn't do that, and
Yep.
so I had to come up with something else.
Yeah.
And so the name Papa Chocolat came up, and that became actually quite very popular. It was kind of a fun name. It's something totally different.
Yep.
But then there was an implication with that too, and we had to abandon that. And then the Master Chocolat name came up, and that's where we still operate under the name Master Chocolat.
And what year was that?
Around 2015.
Okay.
2015. So that's only 7 years ago.
I'm sure it seems like a lot longer.
So yeah, but it is what it is. You can't do anything about it, and still a lot of people. I get still a lot of comments from people that they find it very confusing, but I can't. It's life. There's certain things that you can do anything about it. But I do a lot of fundraisers, trade shows. I still do that a lot, and then people see me, they recognize me, because before I was often on billboards, etc. And now a lot of people know that I am behind the Master Chocolat brand.
Did you when you lost the business, did you know that you still wanted to be in the industry? Did you know that you still?
Yeah, for sure.
You weren't done. You were like,
no, absolutely.
I still have everything in me.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely the plan to start all over again.
Yep.
So the one thing that I did is, and I'm a firm believer in it. It is like when you run into a situation like this where you're confronted and you had to start from scratch. There are opportunities in that, and it's a big opportunity. That is. To reinvent yourself, and it's a challenge too, because you have to start from scratch. And so I did that. One of the reasons was ultimately I didn't want to copy what I did before, because why would the customer come to me? Because they can go to my old company, because it's the same stuff, right? So we changed the look of it, did totally different recipes. Basically went 90% organic. Still today I do that.
Wow.
So it was totally a different perspective, a whole different view on the business.
Was that exciting? Was it exciting to kind of start from scratch and just
absolutely.
New ideas?
The whole receivership and losing your business is very hard on the family, and it's still hard today. But on the business perspective, it's very exciting. And still now, I see amazing opportunities, and I'm very excited about the future. We have lots of new ideas floating around, and we have new stuff for Valentine, and so it's great to be able to recreate yourself and come up with new things. I read a lot. I would love to go back to the trade shows in Europe.
Yep.
And see where the new trends, what is happening, meet new suppliers, and make things better. Because that's I'm a firm believer that quality, you never achieve your goal, because it's always, you want always to do something better. It can be in your packaging, it can be your suppliers, better suppliers. It never stops. But if you're truly passionate about it, that's what you want to do. You want to do that. You want to go and learn more about the business. I would love to go back and take more courses. I've done that in the past. I want to do that again, because there's always new things and you can always learn more.
As an entrepreneur, if you don't innovate, if you don't continue to push and do new things, what happens?
You go backwards. You have to do that. Otherwise, they will catch up with you, and they're gonna pass you. You have to always, push yourself, and for that, competition is good. That you push yourself. I've done competitions in the past too, like competitions in England, in France, etc. But ultimately, competition from colleagues, etc., is good, because it's it pushes you to do better and to come up with new ideas. So that's very positive.
Does it to always be like looking forward and innovating and pushing and trying to get better? Is it tiring? Is it the fuel that keeps you moving forward?
It's the fuel.
Yeah.
For sure it's the fuel, because that makes your brains going and becoming more efficient. Like I said earlier on, this year we were the best organized ever in our Christmas season, and that's great, because then ultimately you see the fruits of your labor and your thinking. You can see that the numbers look better, etc. And no, that's for sure it's the fuel.
Does it is there pressure there? Is there pressure to either have the energy to want to improve, or is it just this? Is there creativity that's like pushing you down this thing that's just it's your only option?
No, it comes from the passion that you want to do that. You have to also be willing to listen to your colleagues that work with you, that come up with ideas, and be open-minded. You cannot be stuck. And I've had that in the past where I stay stuck in a certain. I'm the only one that knows it, and that is absolutely wrong. There's people around you that have ideas, and I think that's fantastic, and that's good. And if you do that, then they're gonna be more motivated to come up with more ideas. Yeah. Otherwise, it's simply I'm there for a job, and that's it. And if they come up with ideas and you listen to them, then they're gonna have much more satisfaction in what they do.
Yep. The family background of the business is obviously a long background. Is there anyone in the next generation in your family that's looking at the industry or like?
Well, they are still too young. I have a 13-year-old who loves to play soccer. That's his main motivation today. And my oldest one is 18, and so I don't push them, just like my dad never pushed me. If they get the desire and they get the passion to do it, that's great. If they are not passionate and they get in the business, I think they set themselves up for failure. Yeah, I truly believe that. Like definitely, if you go in the high-end quality business, it's very important that you have that mentality and the spirit to maintain that and to always improve. It takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of work. And if you don't have that, you're not going to succeed in the long term. I don't believe that. No, it's possible, and I've seen that a lot with companies, older companies. You can, like an old quality business, you can turn into a marketing machine, and you can still become successful that way. Like a good example, in my opinion, is Godiva. Was a family business, got bought by Campbell Soup in 1968 or 69. Yep. And ultimately they put a massive amount of marketing dollars, and it became a global company. Wow. And it's, in my opinion, that is basically because it's a massive marketing machine. They sold about 5-6 years ago for a lot of money, and it's simply because with the marketing dollars they turn it to a global company. So there is different strategies. Yep. I am not a fan of pushing companies to grow to grow, but that's all very personal what you want to do. I'm a fan to build a business, preferably a family business. Style of mentality. Yep. I think it's definitely different to work in a family style of business or in a large corporation. It's totally different. Yep. And I like the family spirit, and I hope for my company I can keep going that for many, many years.
The size of the operation right now, does it feel good right now? Does it feel like you've found a sweet spot, or that you can?
Definitely we are in a position where we are growing, and so we have to, we took over an extra 3,000 square feet because we needed that space. So now we have 12,000 square feet.
No way.
And we are definitely in a growing mode.
And you're comfortable there, obviously. Absolutely, you've seen it all, right? You've seen this journey.
Yes, no, but I really love it. It's really exciting to to start again and build up the business. So for sure. So you're gonna see me for many more years.
Which is awesome.
I don't know if it's an extra 40 years, but I will stretch it as long as I can.
Does that keep you youthful? You know, that just the energy and the creativity and just like the growing something, does that keep?
I think that people that have that are passionate, truly passionate, they keep their brains going, and I think it keeps them young. And they like to work with young people. You know, they get the energy from the younger people, and I think that keeps you young. Yes, no, you have to still exercise left and right, and I do that. You know, you keep in physical good condition, and I think you can keep going till I want to keep going till I can't anymore.
So the new brand, new-ish, it's been around for a while now, but you know, this version of the brand, did you have to reimagine everything when you started, or did you have ideas of what you wanted to do with your first business that you couldn't do because it got too big, or you couldn't shape it a different way?
Well, you know, we wanted to be different, so you have to reinvent. And ultimately, if you are in that quality business, creativity is part of it, and so that goes hand in hand. Like, you know, reinventing yourself, you fuel the creativity, and you come up with new ideas. You push yourself too, you know, because now you have to get going. You know, you want bread on the table, you better get the business going, and then you push yourself much more, without a doubt.
Yeah. This has been fascinating. This has been a really cool conversation.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, you know, your business has been around for almost as long as I've been alive, and it's just cool to hear how you think. You know, the passion piece is just, it makes a lot of sense. So it's cool for me at the start of the business. I started mine 3 years ago. So to listen to somebody who's been doing this for a long time, that understands how to do it and how to build things, it's like my master's program, listening to entrepreneurs like yourself. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I end the show with one question. When I say Calgary, where does your head go?
Oh my goodness. Entrepreneurship. You know, I think I like the slogan that they came up with the city. I forgot what it is.
The new one that they have?
Yes.
Is it the energy one or something?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yeah, the fuel, the energy, and I like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's an entrepreneur city, you know, and you know, when I started again, people were so supportive. It was absolutely amazing, and you know, that fueled my energy too. Like how supportive the people are, and still today, like. You know, today I had a customer and I said, thank you very much for shopping with us. Oh, we love to come here and we want to support you. You know what? I cannot ask for more. That, you know, that gives, you know, that's, you know, it's that's an amazing feeling when you hear someone, and we hear that every day. And that gets me out of bed too.
Fills you up. I wanted to ask you, sorry, one more question before I let you go. Do you reflect back on your journey very often? To come here at a young age from a different country, to start just literally know nobody, to start with nothing, and to be where you are right now. Do you spend much time looking back on that?
No. I'm more one that thinks like, well, what is the next move forward? And you know, I can think about my mistakes and say like, you know, I lost this, I lost that. Yes, it's hard. It's hard for the family, without a doubt. But I want to move forward. There's no point to stand still and say like, I should have done this, I should have done that. You learn it, but you go now. You move forward. That's basically where I spend my energy on.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Well, it's done with pleasure.
Thanks for the chocolate and your time.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.